the September 8th Ordinance Committee meeting. Do we have any public comment? No public comment?
You commented all you wanted, right?
I've said everything I have to say.
I'd like to hear a motion on accepting tonight's agenda.
So moved. Second.
Moved in a second. All in favor? Okay. We're here to review the open burning ordinance that has been prepared by our town manager. And would you, Mr. Talbert, just kind of elaborate on what's here? And
Well,
anything
yes,
in between the lines here?
I'll be glad to. As you know, what we presented at the last meeting, there was a model ordinance that is offered by the Virginia Pollution Control Board, Virginia Air Pollution Control Board, and they said, you know, if you adopt this as is, it's no problem. If you want to change it, we'd like to see it and approve it. And basically, approval is granted if you don't make it any less restrictive than it already is. You can be more restrictive, not a problem, but less restrictive, they have a real issue they want to see. In any event, the best ordinance I found on the books to based on this model ordinance was actually the County of Accomax, which was pretty good. Clear, a little more concise. They changed a few things. They added a few things. For instance, they gave farmers the right to burn all the plastic after the tomato season. And they pile it up. That was specifically entered as something they specifically allowed. But they had a very good ordinance. I used a lot of stuff from that. It parallels the model ordinance. There are a few changes. I added the words public safety here and there because along with air pollution, which is what the Virginia Air Pollution Control Board is concerned with, we're concerned with public safety, and we certainly want to stress that. So I added that in a few places. I have a feeling that the county's attorney had reviewed this and cleaned it up a little bit. It certainly looked like it. Basically, the definitions are stock right from the ordinance, the model ordinance. It gives a definition of open burning, which, and when the chairman and I spoke about this today, it leaves a little bit to the interpretation of the ordinance here. Control of combustion air to maintain adequate temperature for efficient combustion, or without these things, without control of combustion air to maintain adequate temperature for efficient combustion, without containment of the combustion reaction in an enclosed device to provide sufficient residence time for mixing of complete combustion, and without control of the combustion product's emission. Without either one of those items, it is considered open burning. Mm-hmm. It covers open pit incinerators, it defines refuse, industrial waste, everything that you can think of that pertains to this. Pretty much kept all those the same. The county had reorganized the model ordinance based on what's prohibited and what's allowed, and I think did a little better job in the model ordinance. Prohibitions. No owner or other person shall cause or permit open burning or the use of special incineration device for the destruction of rubber tires, asphalt materials, crankcase oil, impregnated wood, or other rubber or petroleum-based materials, except when conducting a bona fide firefighting operation, which is covered down lower in this ordinance. No owner or other person shall permit open burning or use of special incineration device for the destruction of hazardous waste or containers for such materials. That's pretty much a given. And no owner or other person shall permit open burning for the use of special incineration device for the purpose of destruction of commercial or industrial or construction waste, except in an agricultural district. That was added that was one of the requests of the committee last time, and I inserted that language.
So with that, or construction waste, that would be in the situation that she found herself in.
Yes and no.
Yeah.
It would fall to the interpretation of the devices that were being used and whether you'd classify those as open burning or not. So go back to the definition of open burning. And open burning means the combustion of solid waste without one of these three things, and we read them all just a minute ago. Control of the combustion air to maintain adequate temperature for efficient combustion. Containment, without containment of the combustion. Now, that was contained. I guess you'd have to look at that and say, is it completely contained? Is it contained adequately? You know, there's some room for interpretation there, and that's what I was speaking of when there's room for interpretation for this. If it's not completely sealed, I'd say it's not adequately contained. Without the control of combustion products or emissions. Now, I don't think emissions were being controlled at all. In fact, we asked the gentleman at one point to put a screen on top of the chimney so the embers and sparks didn't escape from the I'll say their homemade devices. So I think we were able to get some things accomplished there, but do you classify that as open burning? Or I'd say, and this is, again, the Virginia Air Pollution Control Board's definition of open burning. I'd say there's a lot of room for interpretation there, so it's just a matter of how far we're going to push it. Now, in another place in this ordinance, well, a few other places in this ordinance, it references open burning within 300 feet of another structure. That's difficult on this island, as close as we are in a lot of neighborhoods. So, in Ms. Farley's situation, that certainly would have, if that was classified open burning, that would automatically disqualify that operation if we said that was an open burning situation. But if we said that it wasn't open burning, that it was completely contained, then none of this would apply. This whole ordinance would apply because it's an open burning ordinance. So I think our definition, the layman's definition of open burning, is when you don't contain the flames completely. And my understanding at that time that we had flames showing from the device. So at that point, I think we're not open. We're not enclosing the combustion isn't completely enclosed. I think then we're doing open burning. I think there was no doubt about that. So following that definition, I think if we can say that the fire is completely enclosed, then there's obviously less of a danger, then we certainly shouldn't apply this ordinance. Now, at any point, if it is open burning, if we do deem it open burning, we certainly have it nailed down here to where it should be much safer for the public. Basically, there's 300 feet anytime you're doing it. Campfires, fire pits, recreation type fires, if you're cooking marshmallows, if you're cooking food specifically is exempted in there, so you can have an open pit barbecue. Those are all exempted. Anything with recreation is exempted in this ordinance. If you're doing open burning in an agricultural district, which is allowed in this ordinance, one thing it does say in here, and this was in the county's ordinance, and I don't think it was covered quite so well in the model ordinance. We find it, attendance at fires. All burning activities specified in this section shall be attended by a responsible agent of the owner or contractor. All open burning shall be constantly attended until the fire is extinguished. At least one portable fire extinguisher with a minimum of 4A rating or 2 portable fire extinguishers 2A rating, each or other approved on-site fire extinguishing equipment such as dirt, sand, water barrel, garden hose, or water truck shall be available for immediate use. Such equipment shall be sufficient to extinguish embers. You have to maintain attendance of that fire until it's completely out, and I think that's a reasonable requirement. If you're going to set a fire, I mean, if it's recreational, most of the time, if you're watching your grill or if you're sitting around a campfire, I would say it's mostly attended. It's a very small flame to start with, but it's mostly attended anyhow. But if you're out openly burning leaves or debris or things like that, I think it's prudent and certainly reasonable that you should attend the fire 100% of the time.
Down here under the demolition permit required, no property owner or other person shall cause or permit open burning of any building or other structure for the purpose of demolition or elimination of a hazard. What about if, in this case that we have dealt with, there's plenty of old houses around here that still have plenty of old nasty stuff in it, and that was probably one of them. I'm sure there were some things in there that were hazardous and probably shouldn't have been burned.
I think if you read that,
Covered with that?
if you read down here a little farther, I think if you put any combustible material in there that's even painted, it's not considered clean enough to burn.
Okay. It's like, yeah, it's a whole lot of stuff here.
You got asbestos, you got lead paints, you got
You can't use treated lumber.
solvents.
You can't burn treated lumber, you
Right.
can't burn any lumber that has paint on it, or
Creosote.
other coatings.
Yep.
Creosote, that's an asphalt material, so
Yeah.
that's specifically not allowed.
Okay. Well, it looks like, I would hope, everything is covered in here to protect people from what has been happening. Not just in that case, but any other cases that may arise out of it.
And of course, it makes exceptions for burning trash, that sort of thing. If there is not a regular service to pick up, available service to pick up that trash, of course, we have trash service, trash pickup on the
And
island.
I didn't read it that way. I thought it said that you could have that whether or not there was service or not, that you could burn.
Fun.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. It said you can burn leaves and wood and all that stuff, whether, regardless if there's a pickup service or not just garbage.
Right, but I
Yeah.
think trash and refuse,
Yeah.
it says no.
I'm sorry, I was
Yeah.
mixed up on this, yeah.
And of course, that goes hand in hand with a locality that probably is more rural than we are, where that service is not available, and you most likely have a greater distance between buildings in which you'd have an adequate space to do that burning. You'd be more than 300 feet.
I think you got it covered.
Yeah,
Need a motion to send it to council?
Well, I'd like to add something in here. You know, a lot of times, like after a storm or something of that nature, we may have a requirement by, say, fire company or the town to burn something, you know. And I think it would be prudent on our part to, I mean, if it kind of fits within the structure here, it would be prudent on our part to include like storm debris or something like that, you know, in approved locations by the town that they have the ability to do that. I have some discussion on. Would you like to comment on it as well?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The town regularly burns debris, and by debris, I mean basically brush and tree limbs and that sort of thing. We pick up quarterly in town from owners who have landscaped or have trimmed back brush or trees on their yard. We'll pick that up quarterly at a scheduled pickup, and we do burn that debris when we get a pile of it. We take it down to the harbor, which is more than 300 feet from any structure or property, and we'll burn it there. And we always burn it with a fire truck standing by and a fireman, so that if it does travel, we're right there with it, and they always put it out. And that's not just storm debris, but that's also in our regular brush pickup when we get enough of it, and that just, it saves us having to drive it to the mainland and pay tipping fees and all that. And we do have an adequate place, and we do have a fireman and a fire truck standing there with it. So I think it would fit within the guise of this ordinance. And I can certainly insert another paragraph up front that allows storm debris and regular brush pickup to be burned at a appropriate site.
So you could just include it in one of the items under permissible open burning?
Yes. There's 8 there now. We could add a 9th or shift them down and put it as number 2, right under the allowable fire training. That's the other government operation that's allowed as fire training. So we could put that as number 2 and shift everything down one. We'd end up with 9 paragraphs instead of 8. And that'd be straightforward, just allow clean storm debris or brush.
We have any other discussion on that?
No, sounds good.
Yep.
If so, I guess, I got isn't asking to,
Mr. Chairman, also, if I may, I'd like to send this off to the Virginia Air Pollution Control Board to have them review it, since we did make changes, material changes to the model ordinance, like they said, and have them review it and make sure that's okay with them, so it would stand up. Once we passed it, it would stand the scrutiny of the court.
Do you think we would have that back before our workshop meeting? Probably not.
I have no clue, but if I had to bet, I would not.
Say no?
Yeah, or another government agency I've never had contact with and know nothing about, I would not bet the farm on that.
Right.
But I can certainly send it off to them. And as soon as we have approval, I mean, you could approve this pending their approval or their review, and we could send it to the first council meeting after it comes back.
okay.
Unless they wanted material changes, in which case it would come back before the ordinance committee.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'll make a motion that we approve this with the addition of the extra paragraph that the chairman had asked for, and pending the approval of the state committee, is that what you said?
Virginia Air Pollution Control Board.
Virginia Air Pollution Control Board, and then get their feedback and then send it to council.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so approved. I think that's the gist of our meeting today. Do we have any other discussion? Good
Make a
to go?
motion, we adjourn.
Motion
I'll
to
second
adjourn.
that.
Second, all in
Aye.
favor?
5:17.
Okay, thank you.